Hello and welcome to Scrapping on the Fly. My name is Kristen and I am here with Christmas in July and Off the Board with Pineapple Papers. Christmas in July is through the paper crafting YouTubers, and Off the Board is through Crystal Barrett with Pineapple Papers. And so I thought I would combine them, and I found this pin on Pinterest. And it was something super interesting, nothing related to scrapbooking, but the concept was really cool, and I thought it'd be a good way to use up some scraps, and I was right. It was a pin by Paloma Rincon, Eclectic Trends. So I have this picture of my mom's Christmas tree after it was completely decorated. And then these are all scraps that I had in my Christmas stash. And then a few wood grain papers that I had in my scrap drawer. And a little text print that's on vellum that I brought out. So I thought any of those may work. And if I could use up all or some of them, that'd be great. And then there's some wood grain in this, obviously. And so I pulled this Recollections foil paper, which has like a wood grain pattern in it. And then I've got that khaki cardstock that I thought I would use as my base. And I'm just going to use all of that to make all the different little rectangles and shapes and squares. And then I have these quote packs. One of them has like phrases and one of them has like Merry Christmas or Christmas Miracle or things like that. I thought those might be good for using for my title. And then up in the corner, there's like a spilled bag of something. And I thought these little Christmas lights would be cute up there. Kind of like just a splattering of them. And those are the end of my Jolies. And then I have these the puffy sticker type embellishments. And then this little bin right here full of different kinds of embellishments that I thought I could try and use. And I'm hoping to get as much of these items that are on my desk, not in the bin necessarily, but the rest of that stuff used up. And so I've got my papers, my embellishments, my picture, and this neat pin. So let's see how this goes. So the first thing I did was cut this wood grain paper into a 6.5 by 4.5. I wanted a fat border around my picture. And so I knew a 6.5 by 4.5 would be best. And then I just used the rest of that piece to just cut it up into 3 other different shapes. I didn't want anything to be the same size, even though I'm going to tuck a lot of stuff. And then everything else I'm just going to scissor cut because it's not going to be super precise. I'm not too worried about it being exact or smooth edge because most of it's going to get tucked. So I mapped my picture in this off-white paper, and then I used some of my tape runner, but I also put a little Nouveau Deluxe adhesive because it's going on this paper is textured and it's metallic. So I knew that it would need a little extra something to help it stick. So I put that down, and then I'm just going to start building around where this is. Now I'm not putting this down on paper yet because everything's going to be tucked around it. But I did decide, since this pin has a ton of dimension and it looks like things are stacked on top of things, I did want to make sure to have some dimension. So I put my picture up on Fun Foam, and I'm going to put a few other things. Plus I have a couple of dimensional embellishments that I use. So I just start grabbing all those little pieces over there on the left. And those are scraps from a box that I bought on Facebook Marketplace months ago. And it came with all these different little papers. It had a ton of like 8x6 papers and alphas, chipboard, a ton of stuff in it. And I think I got 2 of them. One was Christmas and one was like a birthday. And I think I got them both for like $10 or something. And I have used stuff out of this collection over and over and over again. So almost all of these little scraps are from that collection, except for the wood grain. And then of course that big paper that I just cut. So that's why they all go together so well, because they have that same color patterns. Some of them have the same like texture looking patterns in them. And so I just thought that I would use up as much of that because I really don't have a full piece of any of those things left. It's just been these little bits and pieces. So I am just tucking everything in. Of course, I'm doing a dry run, and you know when it's done, it's not going to look like this, but it's close. And I just really wanted to make sure I had enough papers, and I just cut and tucked, stuffed things in different places to where there wasn't too much of the same pattern on top of each other. There is one place at the top right corner that ends up being the same two patterns on top of each other, but I'm okay with that. So I just start with this one because I knew I wanted it to be flat and flush on the side. So I figured if I started that way that everything else would at least be semi lined up and not too wonky because, well, wonky is my thing. And so I just start putting things down, and every once in a while I'll take the picture and put it over there and make sure it still looks right, that I don't have any huge spaces that are not getting covered. So I took that little square right there of that same metallic wood grain. I turned it to where the wood grain is going a different way, not that it's hugely obvious, and I put it up on foam. And because I did that and I want to tuck it, I pulled a little piece of the foam off of that top right corner so it would tuck underneath there without having a dip in it. And I don't know if you'll see when I put adhesive on the back of the picture, but if you do, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. If I had thought of it before, I would have cut a piece out before attaching it, but you know, that's not how I scrap you all. So I just start putting all these different things down, and this piece here I end up flipping because there's a little red stripe on that side and white on the other, so I thought the red would be better on the outside. And I'm just continue to tuck, and I turned it sideways so I could make sure things looked a little bit more flat and straight. So I get all of that in there, and I really, really love the way this is looking. So I am trying to make it to where that bottom right corner is not touching that same pattern paper. And there you could see the little piece in the top. Well, it's in the bottom right now, but that is going to overlap where I pulled a piece of that foam off. And the same thing with this, I am using my double-sided tape, but I also put some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive in there because it's fun foam, and some of it is going to go on top of that that textured metallic paper. And I just hold that down for a moment, and then I'm going to just continue to tuck things here and there. In this pin, there's, like I said, all this dimension, and there's one piece in the bottom right corner that's tilted. And so I want to do that, but I wanted it to be up on foam because I wanted it to be a little bit different. And so I'm going to use this poinsettia paper that I've got kind of scattered in 4 different places because I had like a strip of it, and so I just cut them into like 2-inch squares. Not that I measured, I just kind of cut them. They're really more rectangular. And so I put that up on foam, and I'm just going to tilt that to the side down here on the bottom because that is what they have, like a cube that's tilted down there on the bottom right corner. And I thought that looked kind of neat. I just really thought that this pin was really cool looking. And like I said, a really good way to use up scraps. You all, I am a paper hoarder. I have a hard time throwing away a scrap if it's not, you know, like itty bitty little piece. And I am able to throw quite a few of these little pieces away because that's all I had left from that stack was little bitty strips. And so if it's not long enough to do something with, then I actually threw it away, which is pretty impressive for me. So there is a little horizontal piece down at the bottom on this pin, and I thought I would go ahead and do that with that same paper that's over a little further on the left. And so it brings that red into a triangle, like that solid with that light colored pattern. And I tuck it underneath that little square. So then I'm trying to figure out how much of these lights I want to put up here. I don't want to use the whole thing because I think that this is actually the end of my Jolie's lights. I've had these for a really, really long time. And when I say really long time, I think I got them in 2007. So I didn't want to use them all, but I really wanted to have that little cluster up there. And so I've Nuvo glued it down up there and let it dry. And then I put this tree on here, and this is a Jolie's Boutique as well. And it just adds another layer of the rectangles and the shapes. And then I just go through my little ephemera and stickers. There are a few things in there that I ended up pulling out, and one of them is this little thing with the trees that you see over here on the right, and that wreath. I don't end up using that wreath because it just doesn't seem right. Maybe it's because everything is squared, although I do have circles on one of those papers, but it just didn't seem to fit right. And I may look at it later and find a place and go, oh, that's perfect. And if you have suggestions, go ahead and put those in the comments because I will gladly accept them. But I flipped through this little quote or phrase thing, and I was going between Deck the Halls and Christmas in the Air because decorating the tree at my mom's is always the first thing that we do to pretty much get Christmas started, and we do it the weekend after Thanksgiving. And so Deck the Halls would have been okay, I think, if there were people decorating, but there weren't. I've already done those pictures. And so I thought this Christmas in the Air is perfect. And these quote stacks came from the same kit that the papers came from. So that's why it matches so lovely like. But this is the first one of these quotes that I've used out of the pack. So I was glad to get one of those used up. And I did trim the outside of it off because it was going to be too big. And so I cut the outside off, and it'll go in the box. And then I'm using these little trees, and it helps take some of that, especially that little gap between the wood grain and the metallic wood grain at the top. I think it helps cover that. So here's that little wreath, and it's got the silver and gold and the shiny stuff, kind of like what I've already got going on. And I put it a few places, and I'm just not really happy with it. I don't want to put it up on foam because it's already 3D itself. And I guess I could have put it over here where I put the little word peace on that circle paper on the far left, which is at the top right now. Oh, I haven't glued down my lights. Sorry. But I don't know. I'm still looking at it right now, trying to decide if I want to put it there or not. I might. Let me know what you think. So anyway, I use the Nuvo Deluxe, and I make sure to put it underneath every one of the lights. And then I just hold my hand on there and then let it dry. And Nuvo Deluxe is pretty darn quick to dry because I just finished this layout, and those are sturdy on there. And I love the way that looks. So I get out my silver and gold stickles, and I just put either 1 or 2 of the silver and then make the little dots of 3 with the gold and silver together because I do have gold and silver on this layout. And I just put 3 little polka dots of clusters by the lights, by that 3-dimensional square, and then down in that little left corner where it says peace. And so here is the pin again. Like I said, it's Electric Trends is who posted it, and it is a Paloma Rincon picture. And I just thought that it would be fun, and it was. I love, love, love how this turned out. So I'm going to show you all some close-ups. I hope you all will go below because in the description box there will be a list of all of the amazing crafters who are hopping along with Christmas in July for the Paper Crafting YouTubers. And then there's also going to be a list of the people who are hopping along all month in July with Off the Board with Pineapple Papers. And I am looking forward to what I find for tomorrow's pin from Pinterest because I'm literally just flipping my finger up and letting it fly and then picking something that lands on my screen. So always an adventure. You just never know what you're going to get. So have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you again really soon. Have a good one, and happy scrapping.